time-honored veteran.
If I went back in, I would be considered older. I made it to the end. I was one of the few guys that kept up, and then I just remember throwing up all over myself, and I didn't give a.
Well, how you doing, Fire Team? Welcome back to Shift Fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Mr. Wright, former Green Beret. It's good to be back with you, and with me, as always,
Cameron Pfaff, former Army Ranger, excited to be answering questions on an episode of Interrogating Cam in Israel. So, our producers have scoured the internet, asked you, our loyal fans, our amazing fans, you are curious about Israel and I's military service or just general thoughts that come from our big brains. So we're gonna answer them today.
Do you think the future idea of pure robotic armies is good or bad? Maybe scary? Less scary? Like
the Terminator,
future,
Skynet. I don't think it's a threat because obviously you have a human mind. As a warfighter, I think is one of the most valuable tools and weapons that we have in our arsenal.
Yeah.
It's not just about equipment, right?
Yep.
It's about the ability to make cognitive decisions based on past experiences. And I don't think a robot is able to do that, even with the potential AI. I mean, you have machine learning, and it's a really scary thing, especially because they learn from past mistakes.
Yep.
But they need to make those mistakes first, which we've done in humanity for a long time. So I don't think it is a viable threat for robots fighting Skynet Terminators in the future, and I think it's a sci-fi silly thing. I think in war will always be fought boots on ground, or to an extent at least, because we're getting really cyber now. But
we have bombs, we got planes, we got naval ships and stuff like that. But when that can really beat some people down. But when it comes to actually taking over, maybe occupying a country, something like that, it's the boots on the ground, like you say. It's the physical bodies in the place.
Yeah. I don't think it's a viable threat in the next 50
Not in our
years.
lifetime.
Not in our lifetime.
I'm not going to worry about it because I'll be dead.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to react in your underwear, embarrassing clothing? Very common thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to forecast when the enemy's going to decide to attack. Yeah, one time we heard a lot of shots getting fired, so everybody manned their defensive positions, and I was in Ranger panties and a tank top. So I just threw my kit on over that. You don't have time to suit up, put your boots on and everything. You fight, you get ready to fight in exactly what you're wearing.
I remember in Iraq, I was actually in Mosul, which was on the main kind of headquarters for our battalion when we were deployed, but some teams were out kind of on the outskirts towards the border of like Syria or Iran and things like that, where it just wasn't a priority to be like spick and span, left, right, left.
Yeah.
It was about getting the job done and things like that. How did you imagine military life before you joined? How did your perceptions change after serving?
My expectations going in there was all from pop culture. Playing Call of Duty, watching movies, Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down.
Yep.
And even though those movies were scary, that's exactly what I wanted to get myself into. I think my perception after serving enhanced, actually, instead of having a negative connotation, because I had a very successful military career, and I got a high enough GT score where it's like, well, you want an Airborne Ranger contract? And I was like, what's that? And I didn't even know what an Airborne Ranger was. All I know was it was in Modern Warfare 2.
Rangers lead the way.
Yeah.
There's some good people in the military. There's also some weasels.
There's some very
not good people in the military. Yeah. Unfortunately, however, the organization as a whole, the military in general, the Army, the Navy, Air Force, all those departments, at their heart, they are good organizations. They have a good, strong foundation.
They got
and
great culture.
Yeah, and
amazing.
Yeah, they do. So. They have a good culture, and I'm so thankful for the things that I can take with me from the military and then apply them to real life.
Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you know how to shoot a gun. Just saying.
Yeah, just because I'm a veteran doesn't mean I know every gun in Escape from Tarkov, okay?
Yeah. How do you memorize all the different military acronyms? Trick question, you don't. There's way too many.
Different branches have different
branches have different names, not to mention, like, if you, just for example, not really an acronym, but in the Army, we call it the Chow Hall. In the Marine Corps, they call it the mess, and the Navy calls it something else, and the Air Force calls it something else. But, there's easy ways to remember acronyms, like giving them words. So, like 5 paragraphs of an op order is like Sergeant Major eats sugar cookies, and it's, those are the 5 paragraphs as an acronym.
Have you ever encountered a situation where you thought, we have not been trained for this?
I think Regiment did an excellent job of honing the training in to match the mission set that we were doing. I pretty much used 3 different radios of all. I had like the M-bitters or the 154s, then going back to the 152s, and then it's like I had to learn all that stuff, and it's like okay, I had to be retrained to experience this equipment. And then overseas, you had equipment that you're just like expected to know how to use, but you have no idea, and you're like, well, I haven't been trained for this. Has there ever been something you saw on base that to this day you haven't been able to forget because of how embarrassing it is to talk about? When I was brand new in regiment, they used to get the fastest squad leader or the fastest team leader, and he would take all the new privates on something called a death run. And it would literally be like 8 to 10 miles at just like a 6:30, 6-minute pace. Just like this dude would take off and you had to keep up or else. And like, or else if you couldn't keep up, you would like be being smoked while running. Yeah. I made it to the end. I was one of the few guys that kept up. And then I just remember going in my barracks room, sitting down in my shower and just throwing up all over myself. And I didn't give a How are older recruits treated in the military?
Well, I was a bit of an older recruit. I'd already been to college. I was 2 years out, just kind of living my life in LA, trying to be an actor, not really having any real direction in my life. But yeah, I was a little bit older, and it didn't make any difference for me. Now, you're talking about like older guys. I think what's the limit for joining the Army?
I think you call old dudes anything over like 27. You're like, you're old as shit.
Maybe I was still
now I'm like
young.
26, and I'm like, wow.
You're a time-honored veteran.
See, if I went back in, I would be considered older.
Old dude, yeah.
And that's crazy.
There were a couple of guys that I went through the Q course with that were older, and not only that, they didn't come from combat arms units, so
they still had physical prowess.
Well, actually, they were starting to kind of, they had to plateau a little bit.
I would say they are treated differently. I know, well, in basic training, you have a lot of younger guys, 17, 18, coming fresh out of high school. I feel like there's more pressure on the young guys to perform, but the older guys, I notice, are treated a little bit more as mature adults.
Was there a video game or a movie that made you want to join the military?
Black Hawk Down.
We actually watched that my first night at Reception Battalion, which is where you go to right before you actually start basic training.
Yeah.
But I remember everyone really enjoyed that. They're like, we're going to watch Black Hawk Down tonight to keep you guys busy. We're like, yeah!
That was the movie that was like, this is what combat's like, which is going to sound weird. And I was like, and I wanted to experience that. Unfortunately, I didn't get that because that's like once every blue moon.
For me, it was kind of a quick snap decision.
Yeah, your background is
I went to the
so
recruiter's
weird,
office,
man.
and I left 2 weeks later, yeah.
That's crazy. What do you think is the ugliest weapon system? The XM8. That thing is disgusting
Wait,
looking.
what's that?
It's a super futuristic looking thing that they tried to introduce to the Army, and it's super ugly. And I would
I like the kind of the angles and the grain of the all the kind of what we have today, the M4s and the
man, I don't like
AK-47s
futuristic looking weapons. I think they're
not
ugly.
in real life. I mean, in video games all the way, but in real life,
Yeah.
I think I've just kind of got used to how they look. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Interrogating with Cam in Israel. If you like this video, please subscribe to our Snapchat, but no pictures of your bullpup.